Hello everybody and welcome to a different video today. This is an analysis of the struggle. This is I think right now it's going to be 5 parts, they don't build off one another. They're just going to be individual, but it's a 5-part series that I think we're going to make. Analyzing how the struggle is depicted in different pieces of literature, or just media in general. One is going to be One Piece. It's going to be eventually. This is Berserk. I think I want to do one on Vinland Saga at some point whenever I catch up to that. I haven't even tried right now. I'm going to do one on Sun Eater, and I'm going to do one on... There is a 5th thing that I want. Maybe that makes 6. But I have a list of books. Oh, and Realm of the Elderlings. But anyways, today is Berserk. The first thing I want to get out of the way is, what is a struggle? When we use the word the struggle, when we say the struggle, what are we talking about? The term struggle is defined as to resist an imprisonment, to resist restraint, or to resist an attack, a violent attack. And I think that a lot of the time when we talk about it in literature, or just media in general, we talk about it's a struggle as a metaphysical thing, a more philosophical idea rather than a physical thing. We are struggling against an oppressor, or we're struggling against an oppressor rather than struggling against a man who's trying to stab me. And Berserk has its own way of defining this. I also think that in most media, the struggle is defined by the reward at the end. But not quite. How do I phrase this? I should say, rather than just the reward at the end, it's a little bit more, we struggle through the pits of life to reach a better place. That's why I think some of the best series are Berserk and Realm of the Elderlings, because they understand these pits, these valleys, and they also understand the reward. But I'm going to talk about Berserk here. The first struggle that we see throughout Berserk is Guts' struggle against hate. Of course, this is Volume 14, so this is later on in the story, and I'll explain why it's Volume 14 for a while. I should also say, spoilers for all of Berserk. I'm not separating this through arc, unless I do. I don't know. This is improvised completely, and we'll see how I go from there. It's like how I write any essay, by the way. It's all on the spot, making it up as I go. But the first thing we see of Guts is a struggle against hate. He kills all these random monsters, the apostles that he finds along the way in the first 5 chapters, or first 3 volumes, in the Black Swordsman arc. And we see how cynical he is, how little he cares about so many things. He truly is willing to let anybody die as long as they aren't getting in his way. He doesn't care. He's not a hero. He's not an anti-hero. He's just a guy out for himself. And what he wants. That is, he's going to kill demons. It's pretty straightforward. Then when he sees Griffith, he loses it. He goes into that rage, and we have that struggle. He's struggling to suppress his emotions, to gain control of himself, all throughout the entire Black Swordsman arc. He has no control over himself because all he is focused on is that hate. And then we go into the Golden Age. And I think that's where we begin to understand more about him. I think that throughout the first sections of Berserk, we see how he removes himself from physical attachment. And we see the roots of that in how Guts is viewed as an ill omen, as bad luck to the very first mercenary group that he's a part of in the Golden Age, as he's born, hell. And Gambino views him as bad luck. His own father, the man who's supposed to raise him, views him as bad luck. And who can blame him? Really? Or who can blame Guts for viewing himself as having such bad luck? Because Guts is surrounded by so many horrible things in just the first 10 years of his life. 3 years old, he's witnessing his own mother, or the lady who picked him up from the ground after having been born from a corpse, pick him up and die. She's just dying right beside him at the age of 3 or 4. I can't remember which one. Then, Gambino gets his leg cut off. The guy who he views as his father gets his own leg chopped off in the middle of battle. Of course he's going to think he's an ill omen if everybody's telling him he's an ill omen. Because all the bad things to these two people who were important in his life happened after Guts entered their lives. Not shortly after, but it happened. And so he draws that correlation in his head. And eventually, what's his name? Does anybody know? If you can remember... Oh, Donovan. Donovan's his name. When the thing between Donovan and Guts happened, if you've read Berserk, you know that Donovan did something horrible to Guts. And I'm not going to explain what it is, because that's not important. It is important, but then we continue to see Guts view himself in a more negative light. But because of that, he views other people in a more negative light. He struggles to trust people after he discovers that Donovan paid Gambino to do the bad thing to Guts. And Gambino allowed it. And that creates such a trust issue within Guts. How can he trust anybody if the man he viewed as his father had just destroyed him? He just did that horrible thing to him. And so Guts struggles to trust people and doesn't want them to touch him. This can be found immediately afterwards in the scene where Guts is fighting the guy with the iron helmet. I'll probably show a picture of it on the screen if I can. And he kills him easily, and then one of the noble knights says, "Hey, I want you to be my trainer. I want to train you. I'd love to have you under my aid. I can make you a knight, I can make you a nobleman." And Guts just says, "Fuck off." He doesn't trust the guy. He doesn't believe he probably doesn't have any good intentions for Guts, but probably would have kept his word if I think so. And then we see the one time Guts is put in a place where he is forced to obey. And that is when he confronts Griffith. When Griffith and him fight, that struggle is eased. He no longer has to worry about trust because Griffith is his master. Griffith is his owner, and Griffith may not want the best for Guts, but he damn well doesn't want Guts dead. Because Guts is a strong fighter. And the struggle's alleviated. It's lessened. Because then he grows to trust the Band of the Hawk, because he's forced to stay in proximity with them. He doesn't have much of a choice, now does he? And so that's alleviated. But when it comes time to the 100-man slaughter, when he has to kill 100 men to protect Casca, that struggle is less of a struggle. What do I mean by that? The struggle is more physical. He is fighting men to protect Casca rather than the more strenuous mental struggle of, I don't know who to trust. I don't know who I can have by my side. Who can I love? And I think that's such a powerful idea. Who can I love? Who can I trust in this life filled with horrible people? And he grows to trust the people of the Band of the Hawk. And by doing that, he loves them. And by loving them, he drags his struggle to a physical one, to that of resisting violence, rather than resisting mental faculties of trust, of closeness, of intimacy, because those are the things he's afraid of. And they don't go away, but they're lessened. I think that's one of the most beautiful things about Berserk. All Guts' struggles never go away. They stick with him until the day he will die. Every single struggle that he has had sticks with him. Because that is very true to life. They may be alleviated, but they'll come back the second they get the chance. And so we continue on, and then the ultimate betrayal of the Eclipse. When Guts is betrayed by Griffith, he downright denies it. He loves Griffith. And so he's struggling to believe that he's resisting the idea that it could be possible for his best friend to have betrayed him like this. To have sacrificed him. And yet, he's just been sacrificed. He got the brand, he got everything, and he watched every single person he loved die. And the man he loved the most as his best friend, or the most as a brother, is killed. Or not killed, but in a metaphysical sense he is. He's dead to Guts because he just stabbed Guts in the back, just like what Gambino did to Guts earlier on in the story. He allowed Guts to suffer while staring it right in the face, and caused a good chunk of the suffering for Casca, and you know what happened at the Eclipse. But what's important is after that. Guts struggles to trust a soul. Like I said earlier in the Black Swordsman arc, we see the repercussions of the Eclipse. We see how Guts is unable to trust anybody. He doesn't trust Puck. He doesn't trust the most... Oh, and this just clicked with me. Puck is the most innocent creature on Earth, on the world of Berserk. And Guts does not trust this fairy at all. That just shows the depths of distrust he has for every single human being. And not only that, the lack of care can be found in how he's willing to let the girl who is the Count's daughter just kill herself. He doesn't care at all about the world around him. And it's terrifying. And I think that as he moves on throughout the story, when he decides, I'm going to wage war against all the gods, all the demons, I do not care who you are, I'm killing you all. That is when his struggle truly begins, because he's just given into that hate and he is struggling to care again. And so when he discovers Casca is in danger, he comes running back. He does care about her. She's the only thing he cares about left, but he didn't care about her. He didn't care for her. Because Casca she lost her mind. She'd gone mad, really. And I think the chapter, Cracks in the Sword, I think is what it's called, where Guts goes back and talks to Godot, I think that's his name, the blacksmith, and Godot tells him that that he's filled with cracks called fear, and hatred is the place a man who can't look sadness in the eye goes. And that is one of the most lightening moments for the reader and for Guts. Because as Guts is told this, he recognizes, oh shit, I fucked up. Oh man, I just fucked up. And that for 2-3 years, I can't remember how long he was gone, he just left Casca there. He'd done nothing for the woman he loves. And in that moment, we get to understand why that arc is called the conviction arc. What is his mettle? What is his conviction for Casca? What is he willing to do for Casca? And that's his struggle. To not love people, to love people again, and to love Casca again, to care for her. And so as he goes on his journey to find Casca, he is not noble. He's not more noble than he used to be. He finds Isidro, the thief. Does he save him? Actually, he might be a little bit more noble than he used to be. He might have saved Isidro. I can't remember, honestly. But his care, he is solely focused on Casca, and if you get in his way, he's going to burn you alive. He does not give a shit. And we see that journey. He's struggling and he's fighting everybody around him to get to Casca. And so, one of the most brilliant scenes of that arc is after you see, the hand that the castle that Guts had just struggled in. It's a solid 20-30 chapters of Guts just fighting brutally, and it's slow, and it sucks, and it makes you feel like shit, but he's fighting everyone to protect Casca. And then you see that moment of brevity after it's all over, with the hand reaching out. The struggle's over, and there's light. He had to use the help of other people. He had to allow other people to help him get through it. And that was one of the most interesting things. He had to learn to trust people again. He had to learn to love again. And so that brings a sort of closure to that bit of his arc. And how when he sits down with Casca again, when he's alone, he loses it. He struggles against himself. That becomes the center struggle of who he is after the conviction arc. It's Guts versus Guts. It has always been Guts versus Guts, but even more so now, because he gave in to that craving to be like Griffith, to be his own demon, his own devil. And when he realizes it, he backs off. And I think you all know what scene I'm talking about. If you've read the series, I cannot show it, or else this video will likely be blocked. But showing that idea, that concept of, it's Guts against Guts. Guts against the Beast of Darkness, I think is what it's called in the story. He can't give in to that. And so he eases up. He says, okay, Farnese, her companion, Isidro, fine, you can join me. But don't get in my way. And you're gonna go through hell. We're both branded for sacrifice. You're gonna go through hell. And we see that the struggle has been alleviated. Once more, just like in the Golden Age, it's lessened. He's not struggling as much in the metaphysical sense, in the sense of his mind. He's not struggling to trust people as much. He is still struggling in that sense, but he's not as much. He lets them handle things during the day because he's exhausted at night. Because he's killing all the apostles that are trying to kill him. And it's one of the most interesting things because he finally trusts these people. He learns to trust them over the course of time. And then he goes and gets the Berserker armor. Which, let's all be honest, that thing looks badass. Just take a look at it. It's so cool looking. I'm going to take a picture of it for you. I love it so much. It's the coolest looking armor in all of media, if you ask me. And then the struggle against himself becomes more difficult. When he puts on the armor, he becomes a beast, and he can't recognize friend from foe. So it's even greater. If he loses himself, if he loses this struggle, then he will be the one to kill his friends and family. Or, he doesn't have family. His friends. And he doesn't want that. I'm sure he doesn't. And finally, after slogging through so much effort, through fighting so many apostles, through fighting through hell and back, he gets to Elfhelm. He gets to Elfheim. I don't know which one it's called. It's been a while since I've read Berserk in its entirety. I've read Golden Age a lot, and I've read the Conviction arc. I haven't read Elfhelm or Millennium Falcon more than once. I've read the rest of it twice. But after all that struggle, that stress is alleviated just a little bit. And one of the most powerful panels, this is why I have this arc in particular pulled out to show you this panel. This panel right here. There's someone I want to see. Is that what it says? Yeah, that's what it says. Isn't that such a powerful moment? Because after all this struggling, after fighting through so many demons, after having to kill so many demons, after having to learn to trust people again, after having to learn to love people again, and after having to learn how to care about people again, after having made himself devoid of all care for people, of all love for people, of trying to care for people, he gets to have that love back. In a small sense of it. God damn it. The struggle isn't over, is it? There are two reasons for that. First struggle, Casca is still traumatized as all hell. And if she looks at Guts, she's reminded of the eclipse! The worst part of her life! God, who would want to remember that? That's hell! She was reminded of hell on earth each time she looks at the love of her life. And it's miserable for her, I can imagine. And so, the last panel Mira drew before he died was not a struggle. No, not a struggle at all. You want to know what it was of? It was the promise of a struggle. Griffith, appearing at Elfhelm, he promises more pain, more struggling. He promises to the reader, in that moment, by showing Griffith again, that Guts is going to have to fight that hate right here, right now. He's going to have to fight his literal worst demon. And he loses it. He loses the very thing that he's been fighting for the last 250 chapters. Which, in real life, I'm pretty sure, was a solid 15 years. Maybe it was 20. Holy crap, it was probably like 20 years. Even more. And through the newer chapters after the death of Kentaro Miura, rest in peace, I think it's even more interesting because no matter what, Guts has gotten back up. No matter what beat him down, he gets back up. No matter how little he trusts people, no matter how his love for people has been altered, and his relationships with other people have been altered, he still gets back up, which is shocking, because, and I don't have the statistics to believe this, or to back this up, but I believe that the most important thing in a human being's life is their relationships with other people. And Guts had none of that for a very long time after the eclipse, because he'd just gone off on his own and didn't care about anybody. And so he loses Casca. After so much hard work and effort, he loses Casca. And after seeing so much more struggle, he realizes, I just struggled so hard. I just spent so much of my life trying to get Casca back, and she's gone. She's gone. She's been taken from me again. So he just falls on the floor. You know the panel. I'll show it to you too. He falls on the floor. And that's all we know for now. He hasn't gotten back up. And I'm happy that Koji Mori is taking his time to try and take this very seriously. Because he's doing such a great job at paying respects to Miura. I really do believe that. Because the story so far has been carrying on his legacy very well. And that's where I have to leave it for now. The reason I leave it at that note is for a particular purpose. Guts rose in the Band of the Hawk. Then he fell in the eclipse. Then he rose again to get Casca back, and finally got her back. And now he's fallen again. This is going to be the most harrowing journey to get back up. But if he can do it, if he can reach that place of peace for himself, then I do believe that will be our ending for Berserk. Because there's the light. Not Griffith's light, fuck you, Griffith, but the light of living a peaceful life. After having struggled, after having seen hell and come back from it. If he and Casca can finally reach a place of peace, that may be my optimal ending for Berserk. Honestly. I don't think there's much that needs to be done, if you ask me. A little bit. There does have to be a lot to be done, I take that back. But that's the ending place that I would prefer, personally. And there's more. But we don't know more yet. But there is that struggle. The struggle of Berserk is one of rising, of falling, and getting back up again. Guts just has to get back up again, and it ain't gonna be easy. He knows that. We, as the audience, know that, too. Because for the first time, he's fallen down, and he's tired. He's exhausted. But if you ask me, getting back up is the most important part of the struggle. And that is what Berserk shows, time and time again. That no matter how many times you fall, no matter how many times Guts has been beaten down, he gets back up. And right now is no different. And no matter how many times we fall in real life, we gotta get back up. because there's still more. There's still more light that we have to carve into the earth itself. And that is the core essence of Berserk. To struggle and to create that place of joy and happiness for yourself. I hope you all have a great day. I'm shocked at how well this version of this video has gone. And see you all next time, my fellow strugglers.